It is part 3 and our final part for our pincushion. So for today's step, you are going to need your sewn pincushion, a needle and thread, 1 or 2 pins, a pair of scissors, a chopstick or a pencil, and your stuffing. So the first thing that you're going to do is you are going to be turning your pincushion right side out so that the good part of your fabric is going to be showing, and you're going to do that through the space that you left in your stitching. So you just want to very gently turn it right side out. And then what you can do is either use the chopstick or use the pencil to then just gently push the sides all the way out. So like I said, you can use a chopstick, you can use a pencil. I would use the eraser side of your pencil. If you have a pen, you can put the cap on the pen and then just use the cap part of your pen. All right, so you can see some of my stitching kind of shows, but that's partly because I used that bright orange stitching. If you use thread that was more close to your fabric, it's not going to be as visible. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting my stuffing into my pincushion. So what you want to do is kind of break up that stuffing so that it's not just a big wad of stuffing, and then you're going to be putting it into the hole. And again, you can actually use that chopstick or the pencil as well to help you get it into the corners. If your fingers are a little thicker and they can't fit through your hole, and we are looking to fill it pretty full so that there will be plenty of stuffing to stick your pins into. And you just want to make sure you get it into all the corners. Just a little more right in the top. And then we are ready for our stitching. So what you want to do is you actually want to fold that raw edge, okay, the edge that's been cut. You want to fold that under so that it's on the inside, and you want to do that with both sides of your pincushion. And then you just want to put them together. So you'll have kind of folded edges that are going to be showing on the outside of your pincushion. You don't want to have that raw edge showing. And as you're doing that, you can pin it. So I've got this little section done, so I'm going to put a pin in that so that it'll stay exactly how I want it. And then I'll do this little section. And for this stitching, we're actually going to be doing what's called a ladder stitch. And this is a really great stitch to become familiar with and be comfortable with, because it can pretty much be used to sew anything or fix things as well. It's a really good stitch to be able to use to fix any tears or things that you have in clothing or other things that you would sew. All right, so I have my 2 little pins in here to hold that gap shut. I'm going to get my needle and thread together, And this time we're actually going to do a single thickness of thread. So when we did our stitching before, we did a double thickness. We had the two ends matched up at the bottom, and we had the two ends tied together. In this case, we're going to thread our needle, but then we only are going to tie a knot on one end. So I'm going to find my ends, and I'm going to tie my knot. Okay, same way that we did it before and how we've done it with our buttons, wrapping it around your finger, twisting it off, pulling it so that the loops get all tangled up and gives you a knot. Now what we want to do is make sure that our knot is on the inside of our project. So what I'm going to do is just kind of open it up a little bit. Actually, I'm going to fold this down just a little more. So I'm going to open up the 2 layers of fabric, and I'm just going to put the needle in, and I'm going to have it kind of go back towards where the hole starts. So it's not creating any sort of stitch, it's just so that the thread is in the fabric now. And what I want to do is I want to tuck that knot down into the fabric. All right, so now my knot is in there. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a zigzag of stitching, going back and forth along the 2 sides of the pincushion hole. So my thread is coming out of this side here. So what I want to then do is go straight across to the other side. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go along the fold. Like that, and then I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to tuck that little fold back in there. Okay, my little end is kind of sticking out, but if I continue stitching how I'm doing it, that little end will end up being tucked into the fabric. All right, so since we are doing just a single thickness, you do have to be careful that you don't pull your needle off of your thread because it's not connected. Okay, so you have in one end that if you just pull, your thread's going to come, or your needle's going to go right off the thread. So as you're pulling your needle through, you want to make sure that you kind of hold right at the eye of the needle so that that thread will be held in place. So now my thread is on this side of my pincushion, and I'm going to go straight across and again along the fold. And I'm making pretty small stitches, and I'll go straight across and along the fold. And this will pretty much make your stitching invisible. So I've done my entire edge here. I have no hole anymore. You can see, as I said, that my stitching really just disappears into the fabric. And all that I need to do is just tie it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more little stitch, and I'm going to go all the way across and then come back out of the fabric right where the thread is coming out. So it's going to go all the way across. And once again, I'm going to have it so that I have a loop. Okay, and I'm going to see which side moves less, which in this case it is this side here. So I'm going to wrap my thread around my needle, and then I'm going to pull it through. And a little trick that I like to do is that I'll actually take my needle and I'll just stick it into the fabric right where that knot is, and just kind of stick it through the pincushion or whatever you're working on, okay, until I can get the end back. And then I can pull that end and then pull it a little bit so that the fabric gets pulled in. And then I can just trim my thread. And that way, my end is inside the pincushion. And then you have a pincushion. Okay? What I would like you to do is complete these steps, stuff your pincushion, close up the hole, and take a picture of your finished pincushion and post that to the Google Classroom. But then what I also would like you to do is, when you are in school next, I want you to bring your pincushion, and that way you'll be able to utilize your pincushion in class.